Priest, author, historian, and spiritual leader of the Hebrew family in Guyana, South America, well known throughout the Israelite community worldwide and highly respected, has served the Israelite community as a teaching priest minister for over 25 years and is well known as a scholar of Israelite history and of the Hebrew language and heritage. He has worked as a principal of the Israelite Institute in New York City and in Guyana, South America, and has taught secondary school in the Guyana Ministry of Education. In 1978, he migrated to Guyana, where he established an Israelite community and erected the first Hebrew Israelite Culture Center in the region. For over 15 years, he has provided information about Israelite history and culture through radio and television broadcasts in the Caribbean and South America. He also did a couple of programs here in Buffalo, New York, WUFO AM 1080, where we had him on this last year, and we're going to continue to have him on that radio program. I'll get that information to you. He has also given lectures in many colleges and universities. Since 1985, Cohane has taught intermittently in the New York City public school system. Cohane Mikhail is the founder of Levitical Communications Incorporated, which is dedicated to the spread of Israelite history and culture among Africans in the diaspora. He is the author of 3 books and has traveled extensively throughout North America, the Caribbean, and to Israel in Northeast Africa. I know I've missed some things on here with this description. I know there's much more. I met him in 2006, and I've been impressed from day one when I first met him. Cohane Mikhail Ben Levy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How you feeling?
Good.
Good. Again, I give thanks to the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth for this blessed opportunity to speak to you. I want you to give Leah another round of applause. She made my job a lot easier. Believe me, when we know the statistics and the facts about what is happening to our people from that perspective, it really makes clear the need and the understanding of needing to know our identity, why all of this is happening. And I'd like you to look at a thought and an idea in one of these books here, Israelites and Jews. It describes the difference between Israelites and Jews. Usually if one is asked a question or told that you're an Israelite, the response usually would be, are you Jewish? Because many people equate the land of Israel, the people of Israel, with Europeans, and that they are Jewish. I am not Jewish, nor were the children of Israel ever called Jewish. And you're going to hear some biblical precepts because, strangely and oddly enough, the identity of the so-called Negro is hidden within the pages of the Bible, which is a history book. We go to church thinking that the Bible is a religious book, when in fact the Bible is broken into 2 books. One is the Hebrew writings, which is called the Old Testament. That also is really, if you think about it, it's the original Testament. And if you study further, you'll understand that it's the only Testament. There was never to be any new book, new idea from the Creator. When he gave the laws to Moses on Mount Sinai in Egypt, a geographical location where Europeans have never, ever left the continent of Africa or lived in the continent of Africa. And so when you study, you'll find out that the indigenous people of the lands of Africa that were brought here through the slave trade are the people in the Americas. Today you're going to look at some Europeans who are confessing this today, because I want you to see that this is becoming a global phenomenon. And the scriptures said that they would confess in Jeremiah, the 16th chapter. He said the nations are going to say that our fathers inherited lies naught wherein there is no profit. Can a man make unto himself deities gods when there are no gods? Because there are so many gods today that our people have a difficulty finding their spirituality. And when you think of nationality and all of the definitions that we receive from Leah, you know and understand that there's some basic things that you inherit: your spiritual belief, you inherit your diet, you inherit your way you dress, how you value and think about things. And so when a person does not know their identity, not their religion, not what you are, but who you are, because that's the peculiar thing about the so-called Negro. He's the only person on the entire planet that cannot answer the question as a nation as to who are we? Identity. We have an identity crisis. Sometimes we think it's a black problem. In the 60s when I was coming up, they called it the black problem. But it's really an identity problem because we are destroyed for the lack of basic knowledge. Where did we come from in Africa? Most of us would agree, and some don't, that we're even from Africa. Some people who come to this country and they have to fill out an application from the West Indies, and they have the race boxes: white, black, Asiatic, Hispanic. Many black people check off white. You will be surprised as to how many people check off white, not wanting to identify with their own race. And so this is a very important question for not only us, but for those that are throughout the diaspora. And this is what I want to know and ask you to think about today, and that is that we have a case where many slaves throughout the diaspora have also an identity problem. They cannot understand where they came from. They have no understanding of what their language is. We are the only ones with this peculiarity that cannot answer as a whole. You can ask any Chinese child, even if they're living in Chinatown, San Francisco, New York City, they will tell you, I'm Chinese. In fact, they name their communities Chinatown. And they have no, as Leah pointed out in the first part, she said that the Europeans don't even have to think about a racial problem. We're the only ones, no, not only Europeans, Asiatics don't have to think about it. The only one who has that question that's always somewhere with no answer are the so-called Negro, those that were brought into the Western Hemisphere via the Atlantic slave trade. I want you to turn to precept in Isaiah, the first chapter. It's the first and second verse. This book, called Final Resolution, the Separation of Truth and Lies in the Bible. I wrote this book because one of our problems is that under colonialism, we were Christianized. The missionaries came into all of the Caribbean territories, came into North America, and to get us into mainstream society, the religion of Christianity was the method in which they did it. I remember the Nkrumah saying in Ghana, he said that the white man came here, we had the land, and he had the Bible. When he left, they had the land, and we had the Bible. Gave us their New Testament Christianity, gave us a God that looks like our oppressor. And so this is part of the mental slavery that Bob Marley spoke about. Just read that verse for me, if you would, Isaiah 1 and 2. Because the scripture speaks to not religion, but to a people and experience that occurred. First chapter, verse 1 and 2, Isaiah.
Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth. For the Lord hath spoken. Children I have reared and brought up, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider.
Which people? That's not about religion. He didn't mention Christianity, Islam, Hinduism. He spoke about a people. Who are these children? The children of Israel that he delivered from under Pharaoh. When you look at that on television, you have Hugh Brenner, Charles Heston playing African roles, and Hollywood has contributed to this whitewashing of black history. Our legacies have been stolen in so many manners, and even those characters, David is portrayed, even the angels are portrayed as white, in white supremacy, because that's part of the system of, again, destroying our minds and our understanding of who we are. Deuteronomy 28, Brother Webb mentioned that, and here's why he mentioned it, because he was impressed. And he's going to read just a few verses, 15 to 20. Then we're going to look at some of those other precepts, and then some footage coming out of the land of Israel. Europeans who are telling black people from the land of Israel, you need to wake up, because you are the people of the Bible and we are not. Just read it.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 15.
To 20. Let me have it.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy kneading trough. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land,
The children
the increase of thy kind, and the young of thy flock.
have no longer farms. They're all now, all of our lands have been taken. Europeans living in the land of Israel, where we once farmed and raised cattle and sheep.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Born cursed, die cursed.
Jehovah will send upon thee cursing, discomfiture, and rebuke in all that thou puttest thy hand unto do.
We lead in high blood pressure, diabetes, all over the world, Barbados, Caribbean countries. Our health problems are the top of the chart in death because of what we call, again, diseases that could be cured. Many times eating pork, eating the wrong diet, not having enough vegetables and fruits, not drinking enough water. We're destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And once we knew all of these things.
Until thou be destroyed and until thou perish quickly.
Not to perish off the earth, we are destroyed from our national sovereignty. We're the only people that don't have a flag in the UN. Go and check. And there's no flag for you, for Negroes in the United Nations. Because you're considered a no people. You're not recognized as a people. We're not recognized as a people. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, 28 to 32. This speaks to our being scattered across the earth. The 28th chapter, 28th verse, just a few verses.
Yah will smite thee with madness and with blindness and with astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in dark. And thou shalt not make thy ways prosperous.
Are we prosperous? I'm asking you, are we prosperous?
No way.
Nope. You saw those statistics that Leah showed us? You made $4,000 as compared to $110 for a white person. You are in poverty because you are not prospering, because the Creator is against us, because we're not living according to our role. We were made and chosen to be a righteous people. We're living unrighteously. Is anyone doubt? You have an interaction gathering that we have here. You think we're righteous and we don't deserve to be treated the way we are because of our goodness and kindness to each other and to the planet? Just raise your hand and dispute it. We're having dialogue. We are punishing because we're not living righteously with each other. You know, I just saw statistics that said that since the shooting of Trayvon Martin, Gray in Baltimore, Glover in Staten Island, the police now are saying that they are being victimized because of the fact that people are protesting. They're also being charged, as in Baltimore, by the prosecutor. And they're saying that, look, we're not going to attack and apprehend criminals because we may end up going to jail. We're not going to shoot anybody else in the back while they're running away because that's going to get us in trouble. So now they're saying we're leaving them to themselves. Since the police have withdrawn, the deaths and criminal crimes against black crime has gone up and shot up. And New York City has done the same. So part of this problem is what we do to each other. We're living out of our character. We're supposed to love one another, work together in harmony, help each other, and we're being destroyed because we're not living according to the mandate that the Creator gave us to be a holy and righteous people that would be a role model for the nations on this earth.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and robbed
You
always.
saw that foot on our backs? Leah showed us the statistics, and they don't lie. We are the ones stop and pull aside, get the ticket first, step on your back, and take you down even if you're a woman pregnant 8 months. Saw it on the news just a few days ago. I don't live in America. I left the United States in 1977 because as a youth, 20 years of age, I saw what was happening. I took my son who was here and my children out of America, and we moved to Guyana, South America, because I saw some of the young men, this man back here, raise your hand, he was a teenager when he came to Guyana. He's back here in his 50s now. He was about 16 when he first left the country with me. And since I've returned, it's gotten steadily worse every single year. And you know it's not getting any better, if you're honest. Go to the 41st verse of the same chapter, and then give me the footage from Israel.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not be. They shall not be
We're
thine.
not going to have your last name, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Benjamin, Gad, Asher, Yissaschar. You're not going to have those names. You're going to have names like Washington, Jones. You're named after your slave master. That's what it's saying. No other people fit that curse. That's why Brother Webb said when he read that, it opened up his mind to say, this is me, this is my experience. Why didn't I hear this in church? Why didn't I hear this on the Sunday sermon from the preacher? Because he's teaching you that New Testament, the Greek writings, not your own history. That's the hidden way they have taken us away. And many of our preachers, when they graduate from theology school, they have to sign a document that states, I will not teach the truth of the Bible, I will teach Christianity. That's what they have to do. They must teach Christianity. To teach the Bible, they will be teaching you the history that I'm just giving you briefly in this presentation. Joe, let's go, if you would, to some of the footage in Israel. Take the first one, please. Here we're going to look at a number of people, Europeans and Israelites, black people. Whenever I see a brother like here, I know you're an Israelite. I know you're a brother. In fact, you look like part of my family. I can show you your uncle. There's not a person in here that I could not find a relative that you look like. And if I take you to Ghana, take you to you'll see your twin walking down the street.
When I was in South Africa, it was the same way.
We've been there. Listen to this.
Let me just reveal some things. First of all, is that the Jews who were born in Israel, most of them are white. Not most of them, almost all of them are white, including me. I was born in Israel from a country which is called Bulgaria. It's a European country. And I can tell you that in every European country, there are Jews and there is so-called organization, Jewish Agency, which is trying to take the Jews to Israel. If you track this organization, you can find out that this is not an Israeli organization, it is an American organization. Jewish Agency is an American organization which has the exclusive right to decide who is Jewish and who is not on this planet, and who will be taken to Israel and who not. Now, if you do research, you will find out that in Africa, in Black Africa, they're looking for Jews only in Ethiopia. They bring Jews only from Ethiopia. And I can tell you by knowing a lot of people, Ethiopian Jews here in Israel, that they're treated very badly, very badly. And many of them commit suicide because they cannot take it. So they come from some place in Ethiopia, they don't have much there, but they live decent life. And when they come here and try to be humiliated and so on, some of them cannot even take it. Now, what I'm trying to say is that why from each white country this Jewish agency is trying to bring Jews, and when it's about Black Africa, they go into Ethiopia and this is where they stop. The only one place. Now, because of the same thing, they're trying to do the white supremacy here. They try to bring white guys here and to take the supremacy over Arabs, which are the local citizens, and over blacks, which are So far, they're only the Ethiopian Jews. Now, what I'm trying also to say is that another question is why? Why America needs Israel? In Israel, there is no oil like in other Middle Eastern countries. There's nothing they can be attracted to. But why do they do all these things? Why do they invest money, bring white people and so on? When they build their system of white supremacy, just like in America, they build in Israel. Why? And I can tell you why. Because the true Jews, according to the Bible, you can check it in the Bible, you can read Job 30 or some other places. They have never been white. They have been people of color. And they have not stopped in Ethiopia. They were in West Ethiopia, Sudan, and they have settled in West Africa. From the West Africa, they have been taken as slaves to America. Brothers and sisters, blacks of America, it's you. You are the true Hebrews. You are the true Hebrews from the Bible. America gonna do everything, gonna invest as much money as it has, and gonna fight as much wars as they can, gonna invite as much weapons as they can, just to hide this away from you. Gonna take Israel, gonna bring white people here, and to tell you these are the Jews, gonna kill you, gonna kill Arabs, gonna mistreat white people like this guy, just to tell you this lie, that you are nobody and we are the Jews with all the history and so on. It has been deleted in your history. You don't know who you are. Don't forget about it. This is why America has been taking your history away. In order to find out that it's all about you. I'm telling you this, please. I don't ask you to come to Israel and to start a revolution. I'm just asking you to start thinking this way, to believe me a little bit. Because I live in Israel and I'm part of this injustice. I really believe that people like me and you, we can bring the justice back. Thank you.
Does that make any sense? I'm asking you, what do you think about it? You have any thoughts on what he said?
It was deep.
He said it was deep. That's very deep. Because the Creator says, read in Jeremiah 16:19 quick. See, prophecy, you're living in the time of prophecy. That we were placed on a timeline for this punishment. The time is up. And so these things, Jeremiah 16:19, what does it say?
Yeah, my strength and my stronghold, and my refuge in the day of affliction. Unto thee shall the nations come from the ends of the earth, and it shall say.
They're coming from Israel, they're coming from other countries. She's going to tell you the same thing in her own words. They're all over the world. You can go on YouTube. Hundreds of people are saying this all around the world. That you are the people. You need to wake up, and we're waiting for you to be a righteous people, to lead us in the way that the Creator told you. You're the only ones who can do it. We influence the world in our music. We influence them in our dance. We influence them in our dress. We influence the world and make the impact. From Harlem, from the ghetto we influence, from jail we influence them. Have the kids wearing their pants down. Why don't we influence them for righteousness? That's our real role. It says.
Our fathers have inherited naught but lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit.
In other words, Christianity, you don't get to heaven when you die. They put you in the ground. They put you in there. Because from dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. That's why they don't fly you up to heaven, because they know that's not your place up there. If you were going to heaven, why don't they got jets, they go up there all the time. Why do they bury you? Because the Creator said you are dust, and you're going back into the earth. And it says more. They're going to confess it, the truth, that you're the people, and the teachings of Christianity are falsehood. We made that point. Let's listen to this.
Second of all, I do want to clarify, too, that I know that the black people that are here in the United States now are not African. I know that. The term African American is what the white man has pinned on them. Basically, I feel, to try to keep hiding their true identity. They want them to think they're African, so they won't find out who they really are. So I know, and I wanted to clarify that I know the black people here are the true Hebrew Israelites. I know that. So
that's good. She's making the same point. She goes on, but we have time that we're dealing with, and so I don't want to just use all of the time. These things you can find on YouTube will give you that information. Hundreds of people saying what she's saying. And again, we have some others.
I wanted to do a brief lesson, piggybacking on some other lessons on the 12 tribes of Israel, and show some scripture from the Old Testament and the New Testament, focusing on 4 passages primarily, showing that the Hebrews, the Israelites, are people of color. All right? Now, this teaching offends Catholics. This teaching offends Europeans in general. But it's timing. And I repeat this over and over and over again, but it's timely and it needs to be discussed and it needs to be talked about. Okay, so I want to get right into it. The biblical Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, were people of color. They were the so-called black people today. Okay, and they're still that way. All right. The Egyptians who are living in Egypt now are not who was living there back when the Bible was being compiled. Okay, those people have been pushed into the Sudan. Okay,
This is, again, a community that's located in Nigeria. They call it Igbo of Nigeria. In the 1960s, there was a Time magazine articles that said the Igbos, the black Jews of Africa, because that's how they continue to try to use the propaganda of the media to distort the true identity. They'll use Jews rather than the term Israelites. When I went to South Africa and even in Nigeria, we've had other leaders and teachers who have gone there. The Jewish man tries to get there before someone like I do, dressed in African attire, and make them Jewish with a yarmulke on their head. They give them money. They send these things in trailers to them because they're trying to make them Jewish rather than Israelites and understand that they're the indigenous. I was in South Africa at the University of Kuala Zulu in Durban, South Africa, and the whole intention, which was European Jews, Israelites from Israel, from South Africa, we came there in one body, and the first thing they said to us was that, you know, you're not going anywhere without the white Jews. And that started the fight right there, a verbal fight. Because we began to say, the Limba, you heard about the Limba tribe, where they did a blood test, actually trying to show that the Jews were linked with the house of Aaron and Moses. And we were able to present information, and they began to, from that arrogant statement, humble and say, you are the people. They didn't know that there were scholars that spoke Hebrew fluently sitting in the room. They didn't know that there were historians sitting among them who could refute the things that they were talking about in the Bible. And so again, when you're